Hello and welcome to the Chris and Bud Show. My name is Chris Scarborough, and with me is my co-host, my friend, and my brother in pod, Mr. Bud Bohannon. Together we'll be taking you on a nostalgic ride discussing a wide array of topics from our childhood through today, hoping to share a bunch of laughs along the way.
Yeah. You know what time it is. It's time.
No, not yet.
Can I go now?
Yeah, now.
It's time for the Chris and Bud Show.
All right, welcome back. Today, basically, we'll be talking about our origin story. It was requested by a friend of ours, and he just kind of wanted us to talk about kind of how we came up with this and why we decided to do this. And
Thanks, Shane.
yeah, I thought, well, I don't know if there's that much to talk about, but I'm also willing to give it a shot because I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe they want to have that voice or have that opportunity to do this. I think in a lot of ways probably think it's way more difficult to do, or at least to get going and to get started. Obviously, you need a foundation or common interest. I guess you don't necessarily need a co-host, but works for us.
Yeah, because I'm not good at talking straight to a microphone.
As has been evident by the other 10 episodes we've done. I gotta let my dog out, and then but I'll let you take over and just kind of give your beginnings, and I'll be right back.
Basically, this show is just going to be a whole bunch of peek behind the curtain. Like, we might as well just leave the fucking curtain wide open. Our origin story actually started, I think it was a year ago. Maybe not quite a year, but me and Chris had just talked in casual conversation about starting up a podcast because me and him both listen to the Stone Cold podcast, which is wrestling. Me and him had just had some like brief words about it, like just kind of throwing out the idea like, hey man, yeah, we should start one. I mean, you know, we didn't even get into it anything serious, like, you know, what are we going to talk about or how do we do it or anything like that. It was just kind of just normal conversation of, yeah, we could do it. I think it'd be all right. And then fast forward about 6 months later, maybe a little longer, we had talked about it again in normal conversation, but this time a little more in depth. Fast forward a couple more months, and then we actually started talking about this like when I wasn't at his house or not together in person. We'd actually started messaging each other back and forth, you know, laying out some structure to it, you know, trying to figure out what would be the best plan of attack to go about doing this, you know, trying to lay out some groundwork for topics and how to do it with two people, you know, how to record it, how to distribute it, you know, setting up websites and social media accounts and all this other stuff. And truth be told, I didn't even know that he was 100% serious because you know how in just general conversation with your buddies, you're like, yeah, man, I'm going to go do this. And then you're like, that guy ain't going to ever do this. I think what drove it home for me was he texted me one day and he said, yeah, I bought me a Blue Yeti mic. And I'm like, oh, shit. Well, I guess he's serious. I guess now I got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's so basically just kind of recapping it from my own perspective, kind of what Bud's already talked about. I've always kind of thought about doing something like this. The problem is just not knowing how to do it, right? It's gotten a lot easier. Had you tried to do this 10 years ago, it would be a totally different story. You couldn't find a platform. You wouldn't be able to find anywhere to put it. You would just basically be recording YouTube videos, hoping people would see it. It's not the same, right? We're doing a totally different medium. We still post on YouTube, of course, but that's just kind of like you kind of have to. We don't really do it because we expect anything to kind of happen with it. You know, anything we get off of YouTube is cool, but
not until we actually get into recording
video
live sessions. Yeah.
And you know, obviously, it's really not as fancy or kind of crazy as people would want it to be. A lot of it is me and Bud years ago, every single day in the car. Like part of you wish you could just have had a mic there, right?
Yeah.
We both had bad habits. Bud still has sort of a bad habit. But I used to smoke. We both smoked.
Cigarettes.
We worked on third shift. Yes, cigarettes. And we both
got to throw that one out there. We weren't smoking meth on our lunch break.
And
Although
we
some
had
of
an
the
hour
people we
lunch.
worked with probably were.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I'm not 100%. It's about as close to 100 as you can be, right?
Yeah, absolute percent.
Yeah. So obviously, you got an hour. It takes you 15 minutes to eat. I mean, geez, it doesn't take that long. And most nights we didn't really even eat much. It's the middle of the night, bro. I mean, can only eat so much. And
Tiny
so
town,
45 minutes.
nothing's
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, except 2 nights a week, right?
Yeah,
And,
so you buy you a sandwich and you go to the car and you eat your sandwich and drink your Dr. Pepper, and well, you're done with lunch, like you said, 15 minutes later. What are we gonna do for 45 minutes?
Yep. So basically, for 45 minutes, we're talking, man. And it doesn't have to be anything like substantial, but the fact that those conversations took place and we were able to kind of, have a good conversation for 45 minutes, that says a lot. And I was, even then, I was like, man, I wish I could figure out a way to take these conversations and put them in this sort of format. Obviously, I didn't know what that was at the time. I think they were just starting to get big towards, like, Stone Cold had already done it, but in my mind, it was like, oh, this is some whatever.
Yeah,
You got
only celebrities that could start this
Yeah.
would ever have a chance at doing it. No one wants to listen to two random idiots talk.
right, and that was kind of my thought process. I was like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not really worried about it. And then, as time sort of moved on, we grew apart. So, like, you got to think about it. We were like damn near married, or it's felt that way sometimes, at least at work.
Yeah,
And then we would still play video games together. Like, we spent a lot of time together. And then just by natural life, Bud got a better job. Bud was working a lot. He wasn't even in town most of the time. Thanks, Shane. Kidding.
yeah.
Yeah. But he was doing well, so obviously no one's here to beat him down or nothing about it. But it's just he moved on, which is great, and I did too. I wasn't working in the same town. We still talk occasionally, but it wasn't like it was.
Yeah, nothing like before. Like you said, we
Yeah.
probably, we worked 8 hour shift together. Then we go home and play video games for 4 or 5 hours. So, I mean, that's over 3/4 of the day we probably spent chatting, and we took the weekends off unless we played
Yeah.
video games.
Yeah, so it's just like, part of that you're just kind of like, man, I wish we could just have more time together. And it's hard, I'm a dad. I have 4 kids, and I'm busy.
Damn children.
Yeah, I work a full-time job. So does Bud. Bud, he's gone still a large chunk of the day. So it's just like you don't have the same amount of time. So I thought, well, if I can find a way to get, and it wasn't just Bud. Obviously, eventually, hopefully, we'll have guests on, and we'll have friends, because it's really not about. Obviously, we're not celebrities. No one really cares about us. They enjoy our topics, I guess. But for us, we still want to get our friends involved. Hopefully soon that'll be possible.
Yeah, so for
That's
the
a good
people that do listen to us, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. I know we had a couple people from the United Kingdom, a couple randoms from Puerto Rico, which I was like amazed by that, right?
Yeah, pretty mind blowing when you think about it.
A lot of it was just I wanted to be able to spend time with my friends and be productive at the same time. Because really, those conversations that we have are hilarious, and they are appropriate for the most part. And we could talk about topics that are awesome and things that interest us, and can find ways to sort of get our voice out there at the end of the day.
Yeah, and those conversations too, they're not structured by any means. Like this whole episode that we're doing right now, this is straight off the cuff. We have zero notes, we have zero preparation for it. This is something where I sent Chris a text and said, "Hey, you want to do an episode on this subject?" And he said, "Okay, let's hope we can make it last."
Yeah.
Because we're in fear of not being able to fill the time slot with this, because we are just honestly freeballing everything here. And, it's hard to do.
Yeah. Well, especially when you can see the clock moving, it's a little different. But we obviously,
Well,
what we're doing.
I'll fix that.
Yeah.
There you go.
But one of the funny things about it is, like you said, just getting everything else structured. But obviously, this podcast and some other ones we'll kind of do that seem kind of out of order or a little more disjointed. They're happening because we took on a big task in watching Arrow, basically the entire series, and it takes us a lot longer between seasons because, of course, we have lives, and this doesn't pay the bills. So you have to have, you only have so much time to be able to get that done.
Yeah.
So I don't mind talking about this stuff in between it, though.
I remember back in my prime, man. I could go through and blare through a season of Arrow in 2 days.
Now we're lucky to get 6 episodes watched in a week.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah. So basically, to start from the very very beginning, so we kind of move progressively instead of all over the place. Like Bud said, we usually get together a couple times a year. We always do. We seem to always do 4th of July together. We do a Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving sort of thing together, which I'm not sure what happened last year. Anyway, doesn't really matter. But we get together like at most like 3 or 4 times a year in person, hanging out. All my friends are over, whatever. And one of those times, whichever one it was, my wedding was probably actually when it mostly happened. I got married at the end of December
Yeah.
to a wonderful woman.
What up,
So that
Christina?
might have been where it was. Yeah. I'm sure she will listen to this. She's a what's the word I'm looking for? She is a diehard supporter of us.
She's a woman.
Yeah. Well, she loves us. So
Now I feel special.
yep. It was at one of those gatherings where we kind of made a joke about it, and I was like, dude, I would be down. Like, this is something that obviously is something that I always wanted to do, but you're also afraid to put yourself out there because one, the commitment, right? So once I've said that I'm going to do it, my introverted ass can't back out. No matter how many times I think about telling Bud 2 minutes before we do it, I don't want to do this. At least the first like couple episodes. That doesn't happen anymore. I'm usually generally very excited, even if we don't have a topic. Like, I mean, there's been 2 weeks in a row now. I've been really bad about getting topics together. 2 weeks in a row where we just kind of like, let's wing it. So, or maybe 3 weeks in a row now where we've been just kind of winging it. And
the internet, the cartoons, and then this one, are
and,
all unplanned, kind of just shut off the cuff topics.
And we did small research, but not much for the other two. But it was only for dates and stuff, so we don't sound like a total idiot, or I don't sound like a total idiot.
Yeah, we only want to be half idiots.
Yeah, please. I'm okay with that. So once we kind of had that conversation and we both kind of put ourselves out there as this would be something that we would be interested in doing, we said, hey, well, let's set a time. I work wild schedule, so I'm all over the place, and Bud has weekends off. So we set aside a Saturday morning kind of works the best for both, or it did work the best for both of us at the time. And I said, well, let's just do it. And, obviously I didn't even know what I needed. I had a laptop, which is not a very good laptop, but it works. It does what it needs to do. And I have and of course Bud was like, oh, you could just use the mic from, playing Xbox and stuff. And like, I felt like that was such a disservice to you, Bud. Not even necessarily to our listeners at first, right? I was more worried about being a total disservice to you because you were going to have to try to make it sound like I'm not talking through one of these mics, right?
You didn't want me to show you up with this awesome sound quality. Just admit it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to at least be as close to even as possible. Obviously, you're still running on a better computer, and our mics are probably similar. Yours is just more in tune for not picking up all the extra junk that mine does because it's just the way the mic's built. And I was doing so I said, fuck it, I'll do some research. And the Blue Yeti mic, it's a damn good mic, especially for the price. It's a USB mic, so it's slightly different than
simple pimple, baby.
Yeah, it's basically as easy as it gets. You just plug it in, and
that's why USB mics have exploded. All Twitch streamers and YouTube content creators, podcasters. I mean, you buy this one thing, and I've seen them go for as cheap as like $80. You buy this one thing, you plug it into your computer, you find something that has a record button, and you're off to the races. And this is without having to set up EQ and noise gates and compressors. And to know that is good because you get a little better quality, but you don't have to know all this stuff to get going with decent quality. And the content speaks for itself more so than the quality, but the quality does help.
Yeah. So, obviously I was doing some research and I felt like this was the best for me. Like you said, it's simple pimple, right? You just plug it in, USB port. It does its thing. We use a program called Discord, so we'll give them a shout out. Or we use Discord and we use Reaper. Those are the two programs we kind of use. Use OBS as well. So I guess we use 3 programs total for our setup. This stuff Bud already had sort of figured out. Bud, he records videos of him playing the guitar and things like that. So he kind of already has a lot of this already down. I'm still the idiot of the two when it comes to any sort of technical like technical electrical stuff.
Well,
I'm just your
yeah.
I'm just
I,
your voice, right?
yeah, because like you said, I've been doing this stuff since I was like 16 or 17. Maybe not to this extent, but been familiar with terminology and specs and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just find it interesting as shit. It's just like my thing.
Yeah, and it totally is. It's just obviously, I'll go over my setup a little bit, but my setup's easy. I basically already have, and then I'll let you kind of go over your setup real quick, just kind of talking about what you have that maybe people would be interested in it. Obviously, I've already been mostly over mine. I use I don't even know what headset I have. Turtle Beach headset of
I
some
use
sort.
a headset.
Yeah, eventually I'll upgrade that to a better headset, to one that's more podcast like, because this one still has a mic I don't use attached to it. Obviously I don't use it. I'm using the Blue Yeti microphone. There's a couple cheaper ones, but I like this. I liked this one better. It's not their like top of the line, but it's still pretty damn good. And I really bought it so that if we did decide to do a podcast from my house, I have the ability to, it'll pick up sound without having to pass the mic. We all stood by each other. And that was really what I was looking for. In case, say, John came over and John wanted to do a podcast, he had something he wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
Talking about little John here.
You still surprised me whenever you sent me that picture that you bought the microphone. I'm like, well, I guess he's 1,000% serious on this. We got to go.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't call myself cheap, but I'm very conservative. I obviously I wasn't going to spend. I spent $150, give or take, on it. Can't remember exactly what I spent, which is not a huge investment to start podcast.
Yeah, but you went out and researched stuff before you bought
Yes.
it. You just didn't go out and throw $200 on a microphone and say this one's good or it should work.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. So obviously I put the time in, right?
Yeah.
To show you that I was serious, but I mean, I was definitely serious from the beginning, but then in my mind, the reason I bought the mic is I felt like I wanted to be at least on par, or close to on par as I could be with, just the quality. I didn't want you to have to, because obviously we'll go into our roles a little bit later, but that's what Bud fixes on the other end, and I wanted to be as, I stumble and bumble enough. I don't want it to make it any harder because of my quality was less or not quite as good.
So what happens if you bought the mic and I didn't want to do the show? Is it just going to be the Chris show?
Man. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it would have. I would have conned Little John, into it, and there probably would have been a lot less editing, though.
Oh, I'm sure there'd be no editing.
But if Bud, you want to go ahead and go over your setup and then talk about Discord, OBS, and Reaper, and kind of how they all tie in.
Yeah. So my setup is I use the Audio Technica AT2020. It's a XLR microphone that goes into a Behringer Euphoria UMC 204 HD interface. And basically that's just a box that allows the analog microphone to talk to my computer. So it converts it into a digital signal. Interesting fact, it basically just takes the XLR cable and it shoots it out through a USB cable and sends it to my mic. So like your microphone, Chris, does the same exact thing. The only difference is on your PC, you can set your microphone as an actual audio card. My little black box, the Behringer, is that audio card. So mine has a couple more knobs and fancy features on it. That's the hardware setup. And then as far as the recording goes, everything's captured in OBS. I have a source or a scene set up for podcast only, and then I have a source for my microphone. So it's only capturing sound straight from my microphone. And then I capture Chris's sound through a Discord call, and then I just have OBS set up to capture what my desktop hears. So, if y'all ping me on Discord while we're recording, don't do that. That's pretty much the setup there. I mean, it's actually very simple to do. If some of y'all wanted to get started, you wouldn't even have to really do all that, especially if you're going into a solo podcast. All you need is a microphone and any program that's called a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation. You could download any of those from Google. A very popular one that's free to use is something that's called Audacity. That's Audacity. That's something I used when I was like 15 years old. And Reapers is a free program. I mean, the full version of it's like $60, but you can download it for free regardless. And
There's another good one. It's our sponsor.
I ain't got there
Anchor.fm.
yet. You keep on
Sorry.
cutting me off like I forget about them.
Hey, I got to shamelessly plug. That's part of the job.
Yeah. So those programs, they're just simple. Press the record button, and then there's your file. And you can Google how to mix and edit and cut things and boost and all that weird stuff. Those are solely programs mainly for musicians that want to record like guitars and drummers and bassists and keyboards and all that stuff. Like that's how you record a band pretty much. And then you've got like Anchor, as Chris just mentioned, also our sponsor. And then I'm sure there's other ones that we're just unaware of, but Anchor, like you can literally just record directly from the web page that you're on, and you can edit it through their website. So you don't even have to download nothing, which is pretty crazy. They give you a whole sample of like sound effects and transition sounds. And so they simplify the process. So if you're getting started strictly for podcasting, that's what I would recommend doing. Is just get yourself a decent USB microphone and go to Anchor.fm. I think that's the webpage address.
Yeah, that's right, bud.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so go to Anchor.fm and then set yourself up an account and click the record button and just go right into it from there. I only use Reaper just because it's what I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah, so we can kind of talk about how we excuse me, we can kind of talk about how we decided on Anchor.
Put that cough button in there.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'm gonna get my foot switch one day.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave this in the show so people know what I have to deal with.
Obviously, once we kind of Anchor kind of come about, we'll talk about that in just 1 second, actually. So when it came to start talking about topics, obviously we wanted to be as comfortable as possible. So the first podcast we actually recorded, it was about Destiny 1 and 2, and that might go on Patreon one day, but we'll never. I don't want to say never, but it'll hopefully never see our main feed.
It's in the vault.
As it had some issues.
We were all.
It was our first one. It was our first one, right? So we didn't have any structure. We realized it's one of those things where it's like every podcast
don't have
we
structure.
learn something. Yeah, but we're still learning, and that's I think that's part of it for me too. Is like I get to use my brain, and I still do a terrible job remembering things, but I try and gets my brain thinking about things that happened, what we can do to improve, how and for me, it gives me the ability to kind of use my brain in a different capacity. Work becomes monotonous in a lot of ways because it's the same sort of stuff, and then life and taking care of family. That's a whole nother set of issues and problems and rewards and just wonderful things too. But
it's a creative outlet for you. It's a hobby that's also a creative outlet.
Right. Yeah. It gives me ability to exactly just have a creative something I can do and still be creative, which it just doesn't happen for me anymore very often.
Yeah, because like for me, that creative outlet used to be playing guitar and writing songs and stuff like that. That's what I used to do. I don't do it so much anymore because I don't have much time to play the guitar anymore. And honestly, my interest is kind of gone, but that might be for a different show down the road. So like in your case, that's what this is. This is your guitar for you.
Yeah. Well, and it replaced video games in a lot of ways too, unfortunately. Well, it didn't replace video games. It filled a void that was left by video games. I want to say it that way because it has nothing to do with video. My playing or not playing video games has nothing to do with us doing this podcast. It has more to do with that just not having as much free time as it is. And then this gives me another avenue of kind of like being able to talk about that stuff or being able to kind of get that out there, right?
Well, and like you said, also, when you play video games, you're not really using a lot of brain power to do that.
No, not often. Like when you're trying to figure out a puzzle for the first time, maybe, but like not the majority of it. But it doesn't happen.
Yeah, your brain's just pretty much on cruise control when you're playing a video game. It's basically just something to escape life.
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately. So yeah, the first one was about Destiny 1. Well, it's just supposed to be about Destiny. So that includes both games up to that point, and it's kind of all over the place. Obviously, my setup was so primitive in some ways. He also uses
Bruh.
You know, I didn't have a noise gate. I didn't have certain things kind of set up that really helped us kind of better the quality. So certain things, just sounds and ambient sounds that happen in my home,
Or cough buttons,
or
right?
children. Yeah, I'm still very struggle. I still struggle very much with cough buttons.
Yeah, we're only like 3 months in. Still don't know what a cough
Yep.
button is.
Still can't do it. Nope. It's such a reflex to just. It's like trying to not think about pressing a button before I do it. It's like trying to do. I try to do something while you're about to sneeze. It's like, well, hold on. Let me think about this. Like, no, dude, I just need to sneeze. Let me just get it out the way.
Well, it's one of those things that you don't realize how many little nuances you do
Oh, I have plenty. Yeah.
until you hear yourself recorded with a high quality microphone. Like I'm sure you've probably heard yourself in like videos or something that your buddies recorded on a cell phone, you know, and you're like, oh, does my voice really sound like that? But I'm pretty sure everybody says that about their own voice. And then when you put a high quality microphone behind that, you're like, ugh, it sounds worse, but it still sounds good.
Yeah. Well, at least it came out right, you know?
Yeah.
My laugh is one of the worst ones that I've recorded, but I can't help it. It is what it is.
Yeah, and then you got to have that fear of like knowing that so many people on the internet are going to hear like your voice, how you word sentences, how you pronounce or mispronounce things, you know, the stupid shit that comes out of your mouth. And in the back of your mind, you know you're going to be judged. So, I mean, that part of it is kind of, I guess it's scary. But, I mean, if that stuff don't bother you, then it's not. But you have to remember, everything that you say, people are going to judge you on, you know, unless you're like, hey, bud, edit that part out because I don't want no one to know that.
Yeah. I think that was the scariest part for just getting going, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to jump over that because there's a part of you that's, unfortunately, in our culture today, you know, you have to be so cognizant of what you're saying, what you're doing. And I don't mean that, unfortunately. I meant that, like, to some extent, you can't be as free as maybe you would want to be, but at the same time, we shouldn't. So I don't necessarily disagree with all of it in terms of
you should. I don't agree with most of it.
Yeah, but I'm saying like you should be able to. Everyone should put the effort into to think about what they're saying before they say it. You shouldn't just be spouting nonsense. So
yeah, don't shit on people unless you have a valid reason for it.
Yeah, it just doesn't do you any good. I truly don't believe that that's. I mean, obviously, as a culture, we're going in the wrong direction in that particular situation. But
yeah, my mantra is always treat others the way that you want to be treated, right?
Yeah, because if you like, just don't be a shithead for the most part, and like life's going to be pretty good, man. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
it'll all work itself out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an asshole, and I'm a pretty selfish person. But at the same token, you know, just don't go out of your way to be a Karen. You know, don't try to make someone else's life hard just because you can. Just don't do it.
Yep. So that was the first fear I think that we both had to get over. I know the first day when we recorded, I was dreading it, and it's just my personality. It has literally nothing to do with not wanting to talk to Bud or the podcast. None of that. It was just
the truth finally comes out.
Yeah, I'm a very introverted, and what's what I'm looking for. Like I just dread things. So especially when I have to do them.
Anxiety,
or at least I did. Yeah, I have a lot of anxiety about the process. You know, obviously I was nervous, right? It's the first time I'm putting my voice out there. I have no idea what it's going to sound like. I have no idea how well we'll gel, which we gelled okay.
Or
it's
how many
better,
times you say
better. Yeah, how many times I stumble with or how many times I say what's that other one I do? No, there's another one that's like it's like this thing that happens, like that sort of something like that as a transition that drives me bonkers.
Your lip smacking?
Oh, I can't help that. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fix that. Because
don't feel bad. I have my moments too. I didn't realize I say know what I mean so much before we started doing this, and then I go back listen to it while editing. I'm like, do I really say that often?
And the funny part is you say I know what I mean, and then just transition right into is a transition piece. So it's like I don't. I don't know. You don't know if I know what you mean or not. You
But
like
let's
you just
go.
keep on rolling. Yeah.
That's my period, and you caught on that. And period double
Yep.
space. That's what you know what I mean is.
And
Know
I
what I
think
mean?
that exactly. One of the other funny things was obviously we had to get past that. And obviously we already had a feel for each other, kind of how we talk, and like I said, it's different when it's recording and then you're seeing our the wave format and you're like, Jesus Christ, like
Yeah, because
what is he doing?
when you talk over each other in person, your ears don't perceive it as being a mumbled, cloudy mess. When you talk
Yeah.
over each other in a recording, it is
Mm.
so hard to try and differentiate. That's another big word. It's so hard to do that and make it sound good. So generally, when we have moments and we both talk words, when we both talk over each other, I have to cut one of the two people who said something. Most of the time, it's always the interrupter that gets cut.
Yeah. So it was a lot learning that. Like that was a process because we're not seeing each other. So it's not like I can get that like
Social cue.
physical cue, yeah, from Bud that he's done talking. And I never stop talking, so I know Bud struggles to know when to start.
Yeah, you know, when I leave the room to go take a piss, I'm done talking. So,
Yep, it's my turn.
so he's sitting here at my house. You don't know what I'm doing. I could be fondling myself, and you don't even know.
Yep, not a clue. So obviously, we've grown from that point, right? What ended up happening was we didn't have a plan on how we would distribute in any way, shape, or form. We were just like, we'll just get them recorded and then we'll figure that out. Obviously, our original goal was to spend the least amount of money possible.
Which we've done pretty good.
Yep. We made some mistakes throughout it, but
thanks,
what
Mom.
ended up happening? Yeah. What ended up happening was we made a mistake. Or no, we didn't make a mistake. We had to make a decision. I apologize on what we were going to use as our distributor. And there was a couple that we were looking at. I think Bean Sprout was one of them, or Hot, something like that. Anchor, and which I had before Anchor was purchased by Spotify. I had actually considered doing a podcast using Anchor, and I was just too nervous. I didn't feel like I could say enough by myself for people to want to listen to it, I guess.
Well, and they have the better name, right? Like, who do you want to do business with? Anchor or Bean Sprout? Like, sounds like a Pokemon. No thanks.
Well, and obviously when you start, you get the list of who you would use first, right? Not to say bad about it. Basically came down to Bean Sprout and Anchor. Without knowing the way that it was structured, which we found out later, thank God we picked Anchor. Spotify alone was the reason why we were like, okay, fine, we'll use Anchor, because at least you have a trusted name and you already have a platform. So not only do you have the person that's going to distribute it, but you know that it's guaranteed to go to Spotify.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
Big platform.
So for us, we decided on Anchor, not with any interest of using we didn't need to use the recordings. We do it for their ads sometimes that we will earn, but we don't really use the website. That's nothing to say that it's not, but like Bud said, it's a great starter tool and even a great intermediate or long-term tool, especially if you're by yourself. If you're a single host who's got to do everything from one screen, it's about as good as you can get. It's a darn good app, and you can also use the app. Yeah,
like if I wasn't here or whatever, you could keep doing this podcast with no knowledge of how to edit on Reaper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And if I just recorded it straight through Anchor, which is awesome. Like for example, if John comes over and John's like, "Hey, let's do a podcast," I have the flexibility that I could still record it through Anchor or through Discord. If I did it through Discord, through Reaper, I can send Bud the Reaper file and he can do it if he wants to, or I can just do it straight from Anchor, and then that way I can do it. And sometimes it's a little, not that Reaper's necessarily complicated, but it has a way that it does it. And it feels like, Anchor's a little bit more user-friendly because it doesn't need all those extra bells and whistles that a lot of people use Reaper for. So it's definitely a great, not only a website, but a great app. We use the app to track a lot of our, stuff and whatnot. But once we kind of picked out that Anchor was going to be our platform,
Well,
the place that we were going to use.
There's another big selling point there too.
Sure.
Beansprout, if I remember right, it was free, but it only kept your 2 most recent episodes.
Yep.
And Anchor kept all of them, which me and Chris already knew that was going to be the route to go down, because say if somebody comes into this, like say if this is the first episode you're listening to right now and you decide you like the chemistry between me and Chris, or you think that my voice is sexy, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's right. So you could go back and listen to every single episode we've done prior to this because we use Anchor. If we use Beansprout, we'd have to pay
$20 a month.
Yeah, and that doesn't even allow you to keep all your episodes. It only gives you like 5 more slots, I believe, if I remember reading it right. And I just knew right off the bat I didn't want to go down that road. Like, once we keep it, we want to keep it archived to where, because when I listen to podcasts, if I stumble across someone that I listen to for the first time and I'm like, hey, this guy's pretty funny, I like to listen to him, and I want to go back and listen to his old past episodes, that ain't going to do you no good if you can only go back and listen to the past 2. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I forgot to say know what I mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
see how that transition flowed?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, one of the cool things, like he was mentioning, was that Anchor gave us the ability to let everything be available, and it connected to a lot of other platforms, some that I've never even heard of, so that you can listen to your podcast or listen to our podcast in your perspective or your preferred method, which is awesome. Like, it took a while to get onto Apple, but we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on 3 other ones I've never even listened to on at all. We're on Anchor, which is great, which has their own little podcast empire there too, where a lot of stuff that just records strictly and only basically uses Anchor as their main form of distribution, which is wonderful.
Its layout is great too. It's super simple. It's very clean. It's not cluttered. Like I'll have to say that about Spotify. Spotify's UI is a mess.
Yeah. The especially because I feel like it's like it's not broken down well. Like on the Anchor one, everything's got a tab, and like I can look for new podcasts that I want to listen to on Anchor, and then I can look at my analytics all in the same app.
Yeah.
Without doing much effort, And really, because eventually we got to the point where we use basically the way we do it is someone sent me a message. So basically what on Discord, the way it kind of works for us is Bud will stream his screen so I can see his screen. All the notes and everything are on Bud's screen because everything goes to Bud. We did this for a lot of reasons. The key reason for it is I
just typed him a nice message.
Yes, the key reason for this is that way Bud has all the notes that I've put together and all the notes that he's put together all together so that we can see each other's notes and the back and forth. And then that way, if there's an issue or if Bud needs to stop recording or if I'm talking, Bud can communicate with me without having to interrupt me or stop my flow. And we can get any messages that need to be sent out or whatever the case may be. And so the way our roles broke down,
and it helps us. It helps us be on the same page too. So if we're reading the same source of material, we can figure out where the person's at, and we can kind of butt in with something that's relevant to that point in time. That way, we're not talking about, for example, like Arrow. Say we're on episode 5, and then I come in because I'm slow, and I'm like, "You remember back in episode 1?"
Right. It keeps us on the same page, and
literally,
and we weren't doing this at first. I would send Bud notes, and then we would use Discord, and then Bud would basically ignore my notes and would just talk
about
whatever.
Notes are stupid.
And I think I don't remember which one of our podcasts. He realized very quickly that notes are important.
Yeah.
at least when it comes to certain things, So we realized that, we have to do a little bit of effort. But basically our roles are pretty simple. We both come up with the ideas for the topics and stuff like that. But my goal is to help my job is basically to help flesh that out. So if Bud comes to me with a topic and he wants to talk about American government, well, it's my goal to take American government and kind of figure out what we would talk about. And then I throw that to Bud. Bud says, "Okay, there's not enough here, or there is enough here. We'll talk about it." My job's easy. I drew the long stick, I guess. I don't know. And maybe Bud got the short stick, but Bud's role is a lot more in depth than mine. Bud edits all of our podcasts, which is awesome and very thankful. It's a tireless and a unappreciated job.
Very time consuming.
And very time consuming. It takes a long time to edit, even an hour. At least I do. I very much appreciate Bud for doing it, and I don't have to. Obviously, Bud has to retype any notes and get all the notes together and get it all ready on the screen. He posts all the podcasts to Anchor. We do this together, but Bud does the work. We're just kind of here. He writes all the descriptions. I can edit the descriptions afterwards, but usually he just writes all the descriptions and I just don't mess with it. Bud does all the hard work. I just sit here and run my mouth.
Yeah,
help flesh out some topics.
Our post episode conversations.
Yeah. So we have, we try to, basically the way we look at it is 15 minutes to a half hour before, just kind of,
warm up,
getting the brains kicking, getting the voices going. And then we do, well, our post is sometimes way longer than even the podcast.
Yeah, because I've got to warm up because the only thing that I talk to is my dog, and he don't really talk back, so I need to warm up.
Yeah, but our post is probably usually it's about 45 minutes to an hour, but it could be up to we've sat here and talked for 3-4 hours after podcast stop rolling.
And that's how you know we're bros, because most people, as soon as you hit stop recording, they're like, "All right, I'm outie. See you next week."
Yeah, and I didn't really want it to feel that way. It's not that way, but I didn't want it to be that way because, we have a lot to talk about. Anything that we can, it's a lot easier to sit here and talk about an episode or things that we're going to talk about tomorrow, next week, 6 weeks from now, basically over the phone through Discord and work that out than it is to sit here and text back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just way less time consuming. It's way less time consuming. Damn, I lost my train of thought about something else. I was going to say one other thing.
You're starting to sound like me. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, you threw me in a different direction. I was going down one, and then you threw me in another road, and I can't remember what I was going to talk about.
Your train has left the station.
It's gone. It's gone. If you got anything to add, go for it. While I think about what I was going to say.
Insert the dial-up tone right here.
Please.
Now, the other thing, too, that we kind of glossed over was setting up all the social accounts. We wanted to decide, got to clear my throat here. Hang on. I'll use my cough button. And we had to sit here and think, what did we want to do? Do we want to do a Twitter? Do we want to do Facebook? Do we want to do Instagram? Do we want to do YouTube? Do we want to do whatever else is out there? And, we decided against some of them. We went with some of them. For example, our Twitter. I've never used Twitter a day in my life prior to doing this show. And I still don't know how Twitter operates. There's other things too. We were both familiar with Discord from our mobile game adventures. And, we're kind of looking at other options as well, like Patreon. We still haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. Trying to gloss over some details of how much we could offer for, you guys paying money to support us. That's a pretty big thing to ask for. So we want to make sure that it's right before we ever launched it. Yeah, just doing all that stuff, setting up the socials. And, me and Chris, we actually started a business under this, so that there would be no argument between my money, his money, or my time, his time, my ownership, his ownership. Everything that me and him do is 50-50 down the middle.
Yeah, the goal was to be as fair as possible and as honest as possible. It's easier to have a document. We've both seen things, not only just friendships, but lives deteriorate because of stupid stuff like that. So, it was never my goal is not to get rich. It'll never happen. Or maybe, hopefully it does, My goal is just to keep talking to my friend and hopefully having this be available for my children when they're old enough to listen to my dumb ass talk.
This is your legacy.
Through this. Yeah. Or at least it's a recorded documentation of my legacy. The thing I was going to say that I forgot about was...
The train came back.
Yes. Time of day. So we used to record in the mornings, and I actually got a new job, and when I switched jobs, I can't record in the mornings anymore. So we had to move it to the evenings. And the first day that me and Bud recorded at night, I was like, we can't never not record at night. Bud was like, damn, I basically lose a day of editing because of that. But I was like, dude, the podcast is so much better because Bud's already awake and is like alert and is like,
Yeah, he figured out I'm not a morning
active
person.
Yes, yeah, he's not at all. I'm like as soon as my body gets rolling, I'm up all the time.
I'm the lay in bed for another hour kind of guy and mumble that I hate my job and all that other stuff.
Yes. So if you've noticed a difference in the podcast, that's part of it, and that matters. Like when you record makes a huge difference, just because, like you said, you're not a morning person. So trying to record at basically 8 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours, and then it's a matter of we're up against a wall, or we have a deadline, like it has to be done by this time. That kind of really hamstrung us on what we could do. So thankfully, we have a little bit more freedom and flexibility than we did before. So we if it goes long, we don't have to try to feel like we have to just wrap it up or cut it and not talk about it, which is a big deal for me because I want the conversations to always be like a conversation, not like we're trying to hurry up and get that hour in and then not really have any substance to it, right? Where it's all just filler.
Yeah.
So, just as a person who would think about this stuff, this would be all important. Our friendship's gotten a lot stronger just from doing the podcast. So like we would talk like maybe once a month, maybe. And it's
probably not even that. Just honestly,
Yeah.
it was basically whenever I came over to your house for holidays.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's, it's just life, right?
Yeah, and that's not a stab on like, oh well, they aren't really friends. It's just me and Chris don't need to talk to each other to know that we're good. I mean, we could probably not speak for the next 20 years, and then if we saw each other in person, we'd pick up right back from this day.
Yeah, I mean that's just not that's men in general, but I think that a lot of ways we've grown a lot closer, which is great because like we kind of are getting back on those wavelengths where we know what each other's thinking and kind of where we're going, and that makes a huge difference for both of us. What's going to come, in terms of where my thought process is. It's not every time, but a lot of the times, where my thought process or where I'm coming from in terms of what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah, and you still never know what the hell I'm going to say.
Yeah, you definitely kind of come out of left field.
I don't say a lot, but the things I do say,
you know they're coming, right?
Yeah.
Another one, coming up with the name. I didn't require a whole lot of effort. I think part of it was we didn't want to shoehorn ourselves into one category. As much as we like talking about video games, we have a lot of other like interests, things that interest us that aren't necessarily video game related. And I didn't want to be a person who's recording like 6 different podcasts and trying to fill all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to be a guy who has to record a separate podcast to talk about movies or a separate podcast to talk about the internet, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah, we can have one parent company and then be like, Bud talks guns, Bud talks music, Chris talks sports, Chris talks Madden, or whatever else that we don't necessarily jive on.
Yeah, and I thought that was a good thing. Even if there was a situation where I found someone who wanted to talk about something, it doesn't mean necessarily that it wouldn't be able to happen, but I would rather it all just be under the one umbrella versus like, so that it's a little more like available, like it's more widely expressed, and it's easier just to call it the Chris and Bud Show than to say, instead of running with scissors, it's running with controllers, talking about video games. You know what I mean?
Video game casters or Sports Bite.
Yeah. So we didn't want to have to be. And maybe that's hindered us at least right now, but I'd rather be just as authentic as possible. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's an easy name.
But our title is very creative. We didn't use the word "and." We used the letter "n." That's super creative.
Yeah, we really went out of our way for that one. A lot of it was we were trying to be unique, but at the same time, we wanted it to be as authentic as possible. The name is just mine and. I mean, well, it ain't even his real name. It's mine and his.
Don't blow up my spot.
Yeah, it's and his nickname. It's just our names, right? So it's pretty simple. But that was just because we wanted the freedom to talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. Because it's not about
Yeah,
you know,
otherwise our Arrow breakdown, one episode would be per show. That's how that would work.
yeah, yeah, and then you would get a 30-minute episode every week, and it would be a long,
It,
long,
yeah, just
like 3 years.
long-winded babbling trying to fill time, pretty much.
Well, I mean, think about that. There's 23 episodes in a season. There's 52 weeks in a year. So you would basically cover 2 seasons a
I was
year.
I was never good at math, but yeah, that's close to a year for just
Yeah. I Not
ugh.
quite, but I think you're just under a year for 2 seasons. There's 8 seasons. So, I mean, I guess we would be loaded. We know what we're doing for the next 4 years, but, you know.
You better hope your audience really likes Arrow and your personalities.
Yeah. So at least we have the ability to kind of flip flop and move around and talk about a bunch of different stuff because that was important to me. I've always been like a jack of all trades sort of guy. I never really mastered anything. I never had anything that
That's
I
the old
felt.
saying: "Jack of all
Yep.
trades, master of none."
Yeah, I never. Just me personally, my just who I am. I never have been able to be like, this is what I'm going to do. And like I'm not gonna do anything else. And that's just not who I am. I don't master anything. I like to dibble and dabble in all different kinds of things. And it's just
The only thing I master is bait.
yeah. Yeah. Hooking them shrimp on them damn fish hooks, you know?
Yeah, the tiny shrimp too.
Yeah.
Don't tell no one.
Oh goodness. And a lot of it was when it came to the like why we're here was so that me and Bud could have a conversation about whatever we felt like talking about. Like I said, hopefully one day we'll get Little John on here. We'll get some of the other guys that have had an impact in our lives and friends on here. And Bud mentioned Patreon, and a lot of it is we take any sort of thought process or the requirement of asking for money very seriously in terms of we want to be able to give the most value for your buck, because it's important. We don't want anyone to feel like you're not getting value out of what you're paying for. So
Yeah.
we've sort of slowed our roll on that, but
We don't want to charge you $30 just for access to the Discord. That ain't gonna
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
That's
So
why our
it's a matter
Discord
of
is
trying
free.
to figure it out. And I mean, to be honest with you, Discord is the best place to kind of communicate, not only with us, but I feel like it's that way you're building a community. I feel like Twitter is full of a lot of truly bad people,
Twitter
or at least people who just don't have nothing better to do. I guess.
Twitter
You
for
know?
me is like if you have a fan base and you need to make an announcement to that whole fan base, like, hey, we just uploaded an episode, or we're going to talk about this topic on this day, or so and so left the show. Now it's called the Chris and Jack show or whatever. You
Yeah.
know? Whereas
Yeah.
Discord, like you said, for us it's more personal because we can message back and forth in a group setting.
Yeah, it gives more flexibility to be able to have that that direct conversation. Twitter's also very hard to follow for me. Like it's just not
That
the
makes
way
two of us.
I was. You know what I'm saying? We were raised on message boards, and we were raised on
AOL.
like hell. Yeah, I mean, hell, your whole Diablo career, you had to go to a message board to find a game, bro. Like, we're like, this is what we did. So that basically what Discord did is it meshed current technology with that technology, right? Like, create a server, and then you basically can create your own sections in those servers. And like, I know that we talk about Discord and we gush over it every time we have an opportunity to, but we can't put it into words well enough, I guess, to really truly sort of get people to understand why that is so important, at least to me. And the ability to just like you have control over who you're talking to, who you're not talking to. You don't have to block people, go through all that nonsense. Everyone who's in the Discord channel is in there because they want to be,
Well, and another
not because
important
they
aspect,
saw you stuff, right?
and the other important aspect is the mobile. It's
Yeah.
if you need to talk to someone relatively quickly, I mean, even Discord on mobile is laid out very well. You can still set it up to get notifications, so it's almost like a text, but these people don't have your phone number.
Yeah. I mean, what's so funny is, the game that got me into Discord was Marvel Strike Force.
Mine was Tap Titans 2.
Yeah. So towards my end of my career with Galaxy of Heroes, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the alliance I was in, or whatever they called it in that one, guild that I was in, was like, we're gonna move to Discord, and I was like, fuck it, I don't want to use something else. Like I already have to deal with this app. I don't want to have to go to another app to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Once I got to Marvel Strike Force, my brother started playing, and we was kind of like buddies. That's where I was introduced to Discord, and I was like, you know what? I've got to use Discord because we had trying to find a new alliance that fit what we were. So that's kind of how we went down that sort of path, and we ended up at Discord. And I'll be honest with you, it's at first there's like a small learning curve with Discord,
Yeah.
uh, but it depends on what channels you're into. And creating that channel, there's some challenges if you've never done it before, but it's an awesome application. Not only for computer use, like you mentioned, also it's a great mobile use. Like I use it more on my phone than I do. Well, I guess it's probably about even now because of the podcast, and that's how we record it. Or
Yeah.
that's we do a Discord call.
I don't know why it's not on Xbox and PlayStation. I really don't.
Yeah, you would think that you think it would be easier just to use that than some of the, but I guess they have the Xbox
Maybe that's why it's
party
not.
system.
Now that
Yeah.
you said that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it would, I mean, obviously Destiny and certain other of those like high end ones do still use those sort of things. They still use a Discord as well, like especially like the
Well,
alliances and the guilds in Destiny 2, they do. I know that for sure.
it's
As
kind
it's
of
a
like you
requirement.
said. If you look at like the Xbox Live party chat and the PlayStation party chat, not many people use in-game chat anymore. Like that's kind
No.
of a dying thing, and that's solely because of these programs that have their
Yeah.
own party chat because they just do it better.
Yeah, like Neverwinter, right? Like I was goofing off in Neverwinter a couple weeks ago, and I was looking for a new alliance or guild or whatever they call them, and I was trying to find one because I didn't have one, and every single one in that entire list said Discord required, and then this is the Discord link.
Yeah,
Not that I cared, but it's like for what I wanted out of the game, I wasn't going to join a Discord and go through that whole process. But it's amazing where we're at now, right? That's a requirement. You have to have Discord to be in any sort of decent alliance in any game.
yeah,
And it's not, I mean, we're not, I mean, Neverwinter is just an example. When Outriders comes out, you don't think that Discord's going to be the first place they're going to make an alliance or what? I'm sure they got to have some sort of alliance feature or whatever. Even if it's just basically every game now has their own channel, right? Where
Well,
they're
and a lot of it's like because, like I said, they Discord just does it better. Like in my game that I played on the cell phone, they had the in-game chat, but the problem is your character limit was like 60 characters, and it auto scrolled, so it deleted messages like after the first 100 messages. Whereas if you make a Discord, that text is there forever. Unless somebody
well,
removes it.
and you have to load the game. Like, so that was for me was the big difference, right? Because I didn't have to load the game to see the chat. I could just go into Discord, and if you post like a good example for me anyway was we have war where you're facing another alliance, right? And they can send pictures, screenshots from your phone, and I'll know if I can attack. If I can, I'm not going to load in just to load in, right? I want to be able to. There's nothing worse than loading in and not being able to do anything. Then you have to close the game out and wait. So
Hmm.
that gives you the ability to kind of see what's going on without having to load the game. So there's a lot of really awesome features for Discord. Now we're end up like we've been talking for 5-10 minutes just plugging Discord, but I think it made our process a lot easier. And then to talk about down the road, I mean, obviously we'd be interested in bringing in video, potentially, just kind of getting that worked out. I got to get a new computer. That's down the road too.
Yeah, we gotta learn how to record better too, because I really
Yeah.
don't want to edit video and audio separate audio. That's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah. That's a process. We'll do fan requests for topics. Like we got a lot of things. It's amazing. Like
Member shout outs, and we
Yeah.
got a thing now. We're kind of thinking on the Patreon side, like you send in a sound file of like your name if you want to, and say you're listening to the Chris and Bud show, and then you can ask us a question, and we'll throw all that into an episode So it's your name and your question all in your voice. If you want to, you can record it through your cell phone and send it to me and I'll plug it in.
We've considered intros, so replacing the intro with with one of our fans' intros. A lot of things down the road as possibilities. It's all about
Possibilities?
just possibilities. I like
That sounds
pasta.
good.
Yeah, from
Got any
Olive
of that?
Garden.
You got any of that cream sauce on there?
Yeah, yeah. Straight out of. Christina makes some badass chicken Alfredo. So that's some pretty good cream sauce, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I hear a ruckus in your room.
yeah, that's Christina. She's in here. She's lollygagging.
Her ears were burning.
Yeah, she heard me talking about her a couple times. She wanted to come see what I was running my mouth about. A lot of it is mostly just, we have a lot of ideas that we are trying to get put in place. You got to figure out ways to still make a little bit of cash, hopefully, down the road. Merch isn't super far off. Me and Christina are trying to work that out. She's could be kind of messing with the merch. Obviously, Bud's got to approve everything, just like me. But there's a lot of things in the works. This episode was mostly just to kind of talk about what we do, and basically this entire episode was me and Bud talking about things that we like to do, and
Yeah,
kind of how it all got going.
This was our process on it. So, there's plenty of Google articles out there on how to do it. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there of how to do it. Some of the things that we said might be in those videos and articles. We don't know. We didn't look at it. We didn't go to Google or YouTube and say how to podcast. We just did it. So,
Yep.
Whatever works for us, it may not work for you, but this is just our structure and our process of how we do the things. That's from me and Chris, two friends that have been friends for a long time and kind of like-minded. We tend to agree on most of the things that we decide on, like in a business sense, because just me and Chris have that same kind of moral compass and moral understanding. Don't go into business with somebody that's a polar opposite of you. That could be a mess. You won't agree on anything.
Yeah. This has been a great episode just to kind of get it out there. Anybody can make a podcast too. Like, it's really not with the tools that are available today. Not that we've been making, not that we started in the Stone Ages and it wasn't available. I'm just saying the tools that are available today make this process so much easier. And just, a lot of it's just getting an idea, just putting it on paper, man. Because sometimes when you put it on paper, things tend to, for whatever reason, things tend to work out better. I don't know why. I guess you can't erase it, right? You're writing a piece of paper with pen. It is what it is. And
well, it gets your mind off that when you think about it, it's so easy just not to do it. But when you, like you said, when you go pad to pen, or the other way around, that would be a little awkward if you smashed a notebook on a pen.
Just keep throwing that pen at it, or that notepad at it. Eventually, damn it, it'll do something.
Something will get on the paper. But no, if you go pen to paper, then it makes it a little more real in your mind. Like, okay, I'm actually taking time to research and write stuff out and write these notes. And for whatever reason, me as a person, I feel like when you write something on a sheet of paper, it helps you memorize it easier.
Yeah, we've noticed that when we're doing Arrow, right? Like a lot of it, once you've done it, once you typed it, in a lot of ways, it feels like, ah, shit, okay. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Like I'm watching Arrow with my cell phone in my hand, jotting down important moments of the show. Whereas before, it's like you just kind of lay there on the couch and hope you don't fall asleep.
Yeah, Christina was giving me a goofy look because she watched all 6 episodes with me, and she was giving me some goofy looks, or the first 6 episodes that we recorded on, and she was giving me this goofy look, like what the hell I was doing the first time. She's like, "What are you like, huh?" And I was like, "I'm taking notes," and she's like, "Oh, okay."
You writing your memoirs over there? What are you doing?
Yeah. She wasn't quite sure what I was up to, but it makes things a lot easier for both of us, for sure, especially me, because I try to remember, but it's one of those words I have to work it out,
Yeah.
It's like it takes us a minute. So
slow brains. We gotta take processing time.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's about time to wrap it up. I think we've kind of covered everything. Is there anything else you'd like to cover, Bud, before we get on out of here?
No, we can go ahead and wrap up. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that listens. I'll probably keep saying that every episode, but I mean it. I appreciate you all for sticking around, and we'll see you next week. Chris, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I will repeat Bud and saying thank you. we've reached a lot more people than I think me and Bud ever thought we would.
Yeah.
And we hope we continue to do that. It's this is important. This is important to me, important to Bud, it's important to our lives. It's important to us to, continue to grow and develop as human beings. Like this is big stuff for us anyway, two small town guys, just hoping to make a buck. Not much, but just to continue to put out good content for people to enjoy. So once again, thank you. It's been not necessarily it's been pretty overwhelming, just the amount of people you've reached and the people who enjoy it, the feedback we've gotten and that stuff. So thank you once again, and I bid adieu.
If you made it this far, we appreciate you for listening. Once again, thanks for all the support. If you want to get in touch with us, you can follow us at our socials. Twitter would be Chris and Bud Show 1. Chris's personal Twitter would be at Deliberate88. My personal Twitter would be at BudB88. And we also just launched a Discord that's free for the public to join. You can find the Discord link through our Twitter in the show. Once again, thanks for listening, and we hope you all have a good day, and we'll see you next week.